So for the discussion this week, we're responding to the same series of questions as last week, but instead of talking about disruptive innovation, we're talking about non-disruptive innovation. And before I get started on my topic, I want to mention a couple of stats. As of April 10th, there were 14,302 Division I student athletes in the NCAA transfer portal. In Division II, that number was 8,706 student athletes, and in Division III, that number was 4,380 student athletes. Just with some quick math, there are 3 times the number of D1 athletes in the portal compared to D3. So with that in mind, the conclusion can easily be drawn what I'm going to talk about for my non-disruptive innovation topic. It relates to the development of the transfer portal and its use as a mechanism for student athlete recruitment in sports in the NCAA. So while hunting for sources on the subject, I happened to look up the breakdown in number of hours coaches spend on recruitment. In Division I, for the FBS, the football bowl subdivision, coaches spend approximately 6 hours a week on recruiting. So that's schools like Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. In D1, under the FCS, Football Championship subdivision, coaches spend approximately 5.7 hours a week recruiting. That's schools like Georgetown, Bucknell, Dartmouth. In D2, coaches spend approximately 5.6 hours a week recruiting. In D3, coaches spend approximately 10 hours a week recruiting. So without a doubt, it's one of the most significant components of their job. So where does the portal come into all this? Right away, I was surprised to learn that the transfer portal has only been in existence since October of 2018. But I would be confident in saying this recruitment mechanism was revolutionary. There are some people out there that feel the transfer portal is out of control or that it's ruined this or that. And those strong opinions suggest that the adaptation of the portal is beyond disruptive. But then there's other people like Dee Allen of the University of Alaska Anchorage who've been saying this is probably the best use of technology I've seen in a long while. Sean McAndrews at West Virginia State has said the transfer portal saves me time for the compliance part of my job, but he also takes on duties like sports information and facilities responsibilities as an administrator. Carrie Doyle at NC State has said that there were enormous inefficiencies in the previous way we had to do this. I've always been a person who appreciates a good system and a good process. From a 100,000 foot perspective, the transfer portal is the smart thing to do. So before the portal, this process involved numerous people taking a significant chunk out of their day to handle compliance and transfers. Transfer tracers were the process that was used previously, and there wasn't really a standardized method to that. If a student athlete wanted to explore the possibility of maybe transferring to any one of like 10 schools, each of those 10 schools had to get an individual form, and it was either faxed or scanned and emailed back and forth. The athletes had to go to their coaches and request to transfer, and if they got told no by a coach, they had to go to their AD or a designated campus administrator and plead their case. So my experience with the platform has been similar to like Dee Allen and McAndrews. I think the process is very streamlined and efficient versus Hunt Peck. It didn't eliminate or completely replace the transfer tracer model in the very beginning. Not all the schools were using it, so those that weren't still used the transfer tracer model, but simultaneously there were schools that were using the transfer portal, so they worked in conjunction, almost side by side. So who used it? In the 2018-19 academic year, Division I went to a notification of transfer model. During that time, it was optional for D2, but some of the early innovators outside of Division I, the Sunshine State Conference, another D2 conference that has 11 universities, their compliance staff were using the portal, all of them collectively, except in the case where student athletes were transferring from a two-year institution or a non-NCAA institution. If you look at the portal now in 2024, you can see all 3 divisions, an extensive library of the conferences, and a significant number of sports beyond like football and basketball. If someone is in a similar position to like me and helping head coaches with the recruitment process, we can easily pull information from the portal. And what we've done as a staff for track and field is make a shared master spreadsheet with all the athlete information, and as the event coaches have time, they're able to go and contact athletes. So the system we have here in Frostburg now is really fluid and it flows really well, but this is something we weren't doing last year. And for us, it doesn't take a whole lot of going out of our way to make it happen, to use the portal for recruiting athletes.